Hi, Donna.
Hi, Jack. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. I wrote myself a note to tell you to push record.
Yeah, I'm not even going to turn it off. So,
All right. I see you're already recording. Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Just real quick, the mayor's going to be about 15 minutes late.
okay.
There's a few people that I didn't hear from. John Garth. I think Mike McKenna may have tried to reach out to me, so he may be coming. And then Gladys Torres, she said she's going to try to get on. She hasn't made too many of the Zoom meetings, so. But that's it.
Okay. Well,
Hi, Dennis.
Hello, how are
hey,
you?
D.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We're good.
Good. Are you back from Florida?
Yes,
Very good.
no, no.
Thursday is going to be your day. It's going to be like in the 30s.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, Todd.
I think he's on. Oh, there he goes.
Hey, Jack, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Hi,
All right.
Todd.
Hey, Don, it worked.
Good.
Figured start early, in case there was a problem.
That's what I do. I'm always worried I won't be able to get on or something.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Angela.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you for calling, Donna, to remind me.
Oh, it was such a beautiful day. I said it would probably be easy to forget, right?
That's true. As long as it's on my calendar, I won't forget.
Okay.
Hi, Angela. Hi, Donna. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Bill.
Good, how are you?
Alrighty.
Evening, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, Donna, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
Hi, Andrew.
How you doing? I'm running around shutting doors.
Good evening, Andrew. How you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Alrighty.
Minutes.
Want to put it like,
Now we got,
no, but it'll
there's
hold
Mr.
it up.
Molyneux.
Hello, Junior, you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. We see
I don't
you
know what,
too.
oh, great. I don't know what happened the last time. We had to computer work on the the laptop and I remember,
I probably have to install it.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
so I'm working on an iPad, so if it looked like I'm squinting,
Okay. I think that's Marie. And Gunnery Sergeant Garth. And there's Mike.
Ryan. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Mike.
Hello. Okay,
Jack, do you see Carl Timbers?
I do not see Carl yet.
Okay.
Marie is on, but we can see her, but I don't see audio for her.
Okay.
Hi, Marie, shake your head. Hello. Okay. It's 7 o'clock. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And if you would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
The flag,
the United States of
States
America,
America,
The Republic,
and to the republic for which it stands,
stands
one nation,
one nation
one
under
nation
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Okay. Evening, everyone. This is the April 20 meeting of the Egg Harbor City Land Use Board. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by posting on the City Hall bulletin board and by notification to our newspapers of record. And I ask Donna to please make this announcement part of the public record. And Donna, if you would, a roll call, please.
Mayor Chimpeti, Mr. Timbers, Mr. Peterson,
Here.
Mr. Garth, Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Molyneux,
Here,
Dennis McKenna,
Here.
Michael McKenna,
Here.
Mrs. Torres, Mr. Dixon,
Here.
Mr. Hare, Mrs. Johns, Mr. McGowan,
Here.
Mr. Manos,
here.
and Secretary here.
Okay.
John Garth is
here.
on the call.
I'm sorry, what was that?
John Garth is on the call. I'm just technologically slow.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And Marie is here also. She just didn't answer.
Okay,
Her mic is not on for some reason, but I see her
okay.
face. Okay, we have minutes of meetings, March 16 and April 5. Any discussion, changes, motion to approve? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second, please.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion is carried to approve minutes, March 16, April 5. Thank you. Agenda item number 6, Resolution 01-2021, Consistency Report on Ordinance 521 of the Egg Harbor City, amending Chapter 170 of the City Code regarding cooperative sober living facilities.
And Jack, just before we make a motion to adopt that, at the last meeting, we had a special meeting on, I believe, April 5th off the top of my head.
Yes.
I can see Mr. Timbers is joining us now too, so he's on. For purposes adopting the motion, there was only 5 members, which we had a quorum for at last meeting, where we discussed in draft form the sober living ordinance, which was ultimately introduced by City Council a few days later without any changes. So that discussion was already had. We voted at that meeting and determined that it was not inconsistent with our master plan, and it was in fact, consistent with the memorandum that Ryan had prepared, and that is going to ultimately, it's anticipated that that will ultimately become part of our master plan reexamination. So this is just really a formality to memorialize that consistency determination and report in the form of a resolution. So it's my opinion that the best way to do it, since only that the members present at last meeting should technically be the ones who approve this resolution. So by my records, it was Mr. Timbers, Mr. Peterson, and both of the McKennas. So 4 out of the 5 who voted last time are here, and that's sufficient to memorialize that resolution.
Okay.
So we should just
so-
note everybody else should just be noted as abstentions, because they weren't really part of the discussion that we had on the ordinance.
Understood. Everybody clear on that then?
So I still think we can do a motion and a second between you
Mhm.
four, all in favor, and then we can just note in the minutes that everyone else is an abstention.
Okay. So is there any further discussion of this resolution? Would someone then offer the motion to approve this resolution 01-2021 to be referred back to council?
I'll make that motion.
In a second,
Second, Timbers.
roll call, please, Donna. Upon Leo's instructions, anyone who was not at that special meeting should abstain from this.
Okay, so Mr. Timbers,
Yes.
Mr. Peterson,
Yes.
Dennis McKenna,
Yes.
and Michael McKenna.
Yes.
Okay, and Leo, should I call out everyone else to say abstain or?
I'm satisfied if we just note in the minutes that
Okay.
everyone else is an abstention because
All right.
you weren't present.
Okay,
And then we'll transmit that back to the city clerk, and we'll attach Ryan's report, and once it's signed, and they'll take it from there.
okay. And excuse me, Jack, I think I sent that to you so that you could sign it and then
Yes.
scan that back to me.
I will get it right back to you as soon as we
Okay,
complete,
thank you.
as soon as
Thank
the
you.
meeting is done. Okay, new business discussion of, cannabis legislation. Ms. Costigan, do you have something you'd like to share with us regarding this, please?
Yes, I do, Mr. Peterson. Thank you very much. And thank you for members allowing me this opportunity to talk to you about our new cannabis legislation. So as you know, in 2020, in November of 2020, we all voted to legalize marijuana in the state of New Jersey. And on February 22nd, 2021, Governor Murphy signed the Cannabis Act, which legalized for recreational use of marijuana by adults 21 years and over, and established a regulatory system for giving out licenses essentially to cannabis operations within the state. The act also provided that municipalities could opt out of any of these businesses or none of these businesses, depending on the needs of each municipality. However, whether they allow the businesses to operate in their municipality or not, the decision must be made by ordinance by August 21st, 2021. So it did not give us a whole bunch of time to review our zoning and to make a determination as to what the municipality should do or not do. So for your consideration, I'd like to tell you that the act establishes 6 marketplace classes of licensed businesses. Class 1 is the cannabis cultivator license. Class 2 is the cannabis manufacturer. Class 3 is the cannabis wholesaler. Class 4 is the cannabis distributor. Class 5 is the cannabis retailer. And Class 6 is the cannabis delivery service. A municipality could take all of these classes of businesses within their municipality or opt out of any or all of these classes. You must be aware that taxes can be charged for having these businesses within the municipality. So for Egg Harbor City, that might be a serious consideration. So for the Class 1, the cultivator, basically the farms, it's 2%. For the Class 2, the manufacturer, it's 2%. For Class 3, the wholesaler, it's 1%. And for Class 5, the retailer is also 2%. They cannot charge a tax for the Class 4, the distributor, or the Class 6, the delivery service. So in other words, if Egg Harbor City would forego any of these businesses from coming into the city, it would also forego all of the tax revenue that comes with it. So for our purposes, I suggested that Ryan bring tonight or talk about the different zoning categories in the city, because what the act does is make it permitted use any kind of grower in an industrial zone. So in other words, if a grower comes in, which is a Class 1, and wants to start growing in an industrial zone within the city, he'd be permitted to by the state act. The act also provides that a conditional use would be established for retailers for commercial and retail zones. So in all of the commercial and the retail areas within Egg Harbor City, a retailer could establish and set a business, and that would be a conditional use by the act. If the town wants to regulate these or opt out of any of these or all of these, it should consider the zoning within the city and figure out if the zoning as the state provided for, if as the act provided for, would be sufficient. So it's a difficult decision, and unfortunately has to be made pretty quickly. And that's why I'm here before you, so we could consider the zoning and consider the different kinds of businesses that would be allowed. And if we don't opt out, if we do not pass an ordinance, then basically we opt in. By opting in means we don't need an ordinance, we don't need to do anything. The businesses will start coming to Egg Harbor City, we start taxing them.
So Angela, what are they taxing? Their sales?
Yes. For your consideration, some municipalities have already opted out. I know Buena Vista, in Ocean City have opted out, which means they don't want any of the 6 classes within their municipality. I would imagine the dry folks in Collingswood and Haddonfield will probably opt out. Ocean Grove will most likely opt out. But I don't know of anybody else. I represent Buena Borough and they are opting in, meaning they're not doing anything. They're accepting it the way it is. Folsom, I believe, will also opt in and accept the way it is, which is accepting all of the different categories of business. So that's all I have. If anyone has any questions so far.
What part of that does the state get on the taxes?
I'm not sure what the state gets, but they get taxed all the way through. So for example, if we have a grower on a Class 1 license, we get 2%. The state gets whatever percent they charge. But if the business then hires a manufacturer, which is also in our town, then we get another 2% off of that. And if they transport it, they get percentages off of that too. So in other words, it's being taxed all the way down the line.
as far as taxes are for the city, it would be a win-win.
It's a win. I mean, the thing is, Egg Harbor City should consider that it's going to be all around Egg Harbor City. So it's not keeping it out. It's just a question of zoning. Where do you want the facilities to be? Are you okay with the cultivators, the farms being in your industrial zone? If you're okay with that, then that's what the state provides. If you're okay with retailers, all retailers coming in as conditional uses in your commercial and retail areas, wherever they want to go, then you're okay with the act.
So Angela, can this be handled like a liquor license where we would license each facility, or will it be regulated by the state as to the structure of that?
Yeah, it's heavily regulated by the state. So for 18 months, they're going to review everything and nobody's going to get any kind of license, is my understanding. But in order for any of these licenses to be given out by the state, there are serious considerations for each of these applicants. They've set up a cannabis commission, which is similar to the Casino Control Commission. So there's a lot of vetting, a lot of application fees, a lot of background checks for all of these types of licenses. So once they're licensed by the state, then theoretically, they would have already chosen a locale, because if they're a cultivator, they have to tell the state within their application where they would like to go and what they want to do there, how much they want to grow, et cetera, et cetera.
So I pulled up the League of Municipalities presentation. Just Angela, you referenced that at the council meeting. I thought that was really
Yeah.
helpful.
Mhm.
One of the slides talks about the license process, and it outlines it this way. It says the application is submitted to the Cannabis Regulatory Commission. The commission is required to forward a copy of the application to the municipality within 14 days. So essentially, if someone applies to open a facility in your municipality, you'll get a copy of that application within 2 weeks. And then it says the municipality must determine whether the application complies with local restrictions on time of operation, location, manner, and the number of cannabis businesses. I guess you can set a cap. I'm not aware of what the
Well, that's it. I mean, the cap would have to be in an ordinance if you want to cap it. If you don't cap it, if you do nothing, then you could have as many as apply, as many as get licensed. Now, the bottom line is there may not be that many that get licensed. But if they are licensed and they do want to come to Egg Harbor City, even if they want to be next door to each other, you'll have no control over that. And that's good for 5 years.
Angela?
Whatever decision you make now is good for 5 years. You can't change it. You can't go back and say, oh, we should have opted out, or maybe we should have done something else.
Angela?
Yeah, wait a minute, I'm not finished, Carl.
Okay.
After 5 years, you'll get another opportunity to review what you've done and see if you'd like to change it. And they don't have any specifications after that. So you make a decision by August 21st. That decision sticks for 5 years. After 5 years, you can review and make a different decision. Sorry, Carl, go
Angela.
ahead.
Okay. So I just wanted to confirm. It looks like the legislation does permit municipalities to retain their police powers, their abilities to make time, place, manner restrictions, including locations and the number of these licenses. Also, municipalities have the ability under the current legislation, as it reads right now, to basically mirror the state, which means that the state has a commission, the state has some type of regulatory structure, the municipality can mirror that, including licensing. So if the state has a license that costs $20,000, a municipality could theoretically create a local license and set a fee that's similarly high like that. So if someone wants to be a manufacturer and they have to pay $20,000 for a license, the municipality could basically create a local license, and that application is, say, $10,000 and renewable at $10,000 every year. And could also limit the number of manufacturers under as a time, place, manner restriction. So even if you don't opt out, you still retain some local authority. So it is something to consider.
So what's the tenor of council, Carl, as far as this?
So I think initially, when council was going to try to address this under an ad hoc committee, but then they wanted to get the feedback from the land use board. I haven't really got an idea of the whole council as to whether opting in, opting out. I think they really are trying to vet it and get as much information as they can individually and as a group to make the most informed decision.
I have a question, Jack.
Go ahead. Hello, Mayor.
Hi, guys.
Um,
Lisa,
Hey, Mayor.
Hi,
If
Lisa.
you're a manufacturer, is there some kind of rules or anything by the state of how you have to manufacture it? Is it all indoors? Can there be outdoor grows?
Okay, so just to speak on that, I do know that there are certain restrictions. You can't be within 1,000 feet of a school. It does have to be indoors. If you think of it based from a security standpoint, that's pretty heavily regulated as well. And it's going to be a permitted use in industrial zones. So you can, if you have an industrial park, that's definitely going to be helpful for this. If you have space in your industrial park with where they can build a structure, or there is an existing structure where someone could grow this, that's going to be very helpful as well.
Is there?
Also, as
amount
far as cultivators, my understanding is almost all of the cultivators operate indoor facilities where lighting is a big issue, and also water. Apparently cannabis requires a lot of water, and so they're going to be using a lot of water and also a lot of electricity. So all of these considerations would be considered when they apply for their license through the state. Now, just so you know, there's been some interest in our industrial zone already. We've had a couple of calls from people who want to purchase property for cannabis cultivation. Nothing, of course, has been done yet, but there is interest.
So,
Hey, Angela,
Ron,
I have oh, sorry.
go ahead, Carl.
I had a question for the board, because there may be interest in our industrial park. Is it possible for us to expand the industrial park? Are we restricted as far as like Pinelands restrictions?
No, we don't, Carl, we don't have any more space. There was at one time some space, Jack will remember this, that we were gonna flip with Jay Adamson, one of our developers, I guess you could call, when we took over city council. Unfortunately, at that time, he was named the redeveloper for the train station. They wanted to build apartments there, and we were sued by him. And remember, Jack, there was some
Yeah, and I think he took possession of property across from the industrial park. I could be wrong. We would have to research that, and Ryan may remember the details of that, or I'm sure we could clarify the details.
But I think he owns that property, doesn't he? Or we were gonna flip it with him or something like that. So
I don't remember what the disposition of it was, but I believe property changed hands.
yeah,
But the industrial park, as it's designed, there's no more room to expand it, although there is empty lots and property available in the industrial park.
Yeah, you're sort of boxed in by wetlands and residential development. There's nowhere else to take it where it isn't already that's available, really.
Ryan, were you involved when Jay Adamson wanted that, when we were gonna give him that property out by the industrial park? I think it was by Moss Mill Road. It was around that area.
So I remember the work with him around the train station area. I do not remember work with him around the industrial park.
Okay.
I can dig back through our files and
Nah, it's
see
not
where
that
things got
important.
left off, but
Not that important, but there, to answer Carl's question, there really is no, there isn't any more land available unless we go across Moss Mill Road, I think it was, and try to investigate some of that land, whatever's available, but I don't think there is any.
yeah, well, the industrial park zone does go across Moss Mill Road.
Right. I think that's the area then.
So it, that's, it's not what you think of as your industrial park, but it is still zoned industrial over there.
Right.
Let's talk about retailing. So I think retailing will be the issue for Egg Harbor City, but Ryan could confirm or tell me I'm wrong with reference to the selling of the cannabis products. So to me, it seems like your biggest areas are Philadelphia Avenue and the Whitehorse Pike. And so one of the issues I think you need to consider is how many establishments do you want there? Do you want them there at all? Because there will be conditional uses. What the conditions are is something you can regulate. You can space them out. You can control, I think you're pretty sure you can control times for operation. So they're not a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week. That's something you want to do.
So to your point, I think that the biggest consideration for the board, sort of mirroring what Angela said, is whether all commercial zones in the city are appropriate for cannabis retailers. Angela mentioned earlier that Buna is opting in completely. Buna doesn't really have a walkable downtown. They don't have, that business district where you have the wide sidewalks and you have that sort of core area. You guys have two very distinct commercial areas. You have that Philadelphia Avenue corridor, which again, someone might park and walk up and down to 4 or 5 businesses. And then you have the Whitehorse Pike, which is, destination businesses for all intents and purposes. So, it will be up to the members of this board and ultimately up to the members of City Council of whether you guys believe, retail is appropriate just on the Whitehorse Pike, just on Philadelphia Avenue, or both. I think that the more natural fit, the easier one to justify is the Whitehorse Pike corridor. People can stop on their way somewhere. It's like I said, it's more of a destination. I think you'll have to wrestle with, is the walkable downtown, another location that you want retailers to be able to operate. You're right in there, you're right backed up against residential neighborhoods. You're in a walkable area. So is it as appropriate there as it would be on the Whitehorse Pike? So I think that'll really be the biggest discussion. I mean, in conversation with city council members and the mayor, it seems to be, it seems that the cultivator, manufacturer, wholesaler, and distributor would be frankly very low impact developments in the industrial park. They would be fairly low traffic. You wouldn't have the public coming to them. They would just sort of quietly operate and generate a pretty nice chunk of revenue. It's really the retailers that's what people see. That's where people are going to go. That's what really has impact on the community. So that's, I think that's where the bulk of the conversation will gravitate towards is that.
Now, if you want to consider opting out, you can opt out of any retail at all. You can opt out of any or all or none. So if you don't want them on Philadelphia Avenue or the Pike, but you do want farms and manufacturers and wholesalers, that's a consideration too.
So Angela, what I hear you saying is if we opt out, we get to choose everything that we want to do and it's not imposed on us by the state. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, but you can't opt out of everything. You can't opt out of delivery services.
Okay.
I think the opt-outs are sort of piecemeal. You don't, you could opt out of everything, but you could opt out of just individual pieces. So it's not that you opt out first and then regulate. It's that you opt out of class 2, 3, and 4, or, whichever ones you would not want to be present in your municipality.
Right. So for example, Buena Vista just opted out of all of it. They don't want any of it. They don't want anything going through their town. They don't want it grown, sold, etc., except for delivery. You can't stop delivery services from going through your town, going through Buena Vista and delivering to Buena. You cannot stop them from doing that.
Okay,
So they also opt out.
Opting out. What they call opting out is choosing not to have the cannabis cultivator, the cannabis manufacturer, the cannabis wholesaler, or the cannabis retailer in your municipality, or any of those. It could be any of those or all of those.
Okay. So that's really the key. We can do either or. We can, if we opt out, we don't have to have anything except delivery. If
Right.
we choose. If we opt out, we can have whatever we want plus delivery, because we have to take the delivery. Is
You
that
have to take the delivery, right? So for example, like I said, you don't want retailers, you don't want stores, you could opt out of just that. And you could keep the cultivator, for which you're going to get 2%, the manufacturer's 2%, the wholesaler 1%. But by opting out of the retailer, you're going to forego 2%.
So the thing is if what if we opt in, but this is where I'm still confused. Does the state then regulate what you, then they can put anything they want anywhere?
No.
No.
By opting in simply means that you agree that the industrial areas will have cultivator licenses, as many, as the state licenses. And you agree that retailers can be in your commercial and retail areas as conditional uses.
So Lisa, to your point, I think your question fundamentally is if you opt in, or you just all in and you're totally hands off. There's
Right.
there's different levels of opt in. You can opt in by doing nothing and having no control of anything, or you can implement your own regulations and opt in that way. So I think that's what the city would be interested in. I don't think you want the hands off approach of, do whatever you want.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I
Bill,
think we'd be
has
interested
some,
in-
Lisa, I don't know if you were here earlier.
No, I
So if you opt in, you always have your local structure. So you have time, place, manner restrictions. So if you want to say where a business can be, the hours of the business, you can do that.
Okay.
If you want to have certain special regulations as to what types of the product, like if you want to put certain limitations, like you cannot have gummy bears.
Right.
You can have something else, but you cannot have that. You can do that.
Okay. Can you do that with opt out too, or not?
Well,
I mean,
the
I
thing
think-
is, they say if you opt out, you have to opt out of something. It doesn't have to be everything. It has to be something. You can choose just one thing, opt out of that. But the way the statute works is that you can opt in at any time. So even if you had opted out and changed your mind, you could opt in. But once you opt in, you're in for 5 years.
So Phil, our neighborhood preservation program coordinator would like to share some things with us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. Just a couple things. One, the New Jersey American Planning Association chapter had a webinar on this topic about 2 weeks ago. And they did do a YouTube video on it. I'll send Donna the link for that to share with all of you and also with City Council. I mean, some of the presenters were pretty good. One of the presenters was the town manager for Great Barrington, Massachusetts, which has had retail cannabis for about a year or so. You can share their experiences there. In a sense, they're somewhat similar to Egg Harbor with a typical Main Street area plus the highway commercial zones. And there they really wanted to limit the number of users in the highway area. They wanted to use it as a tool for helping revitalize and keep businesses in their downtown area. And he can share his experiences. Chuck Latini from the New Jersey chapter, who's been involved with this, was also a speaker. And they did have an attorney who was talking about different cases nationwide where these regulations are in place, and you know, what's been upheld, what's been turned down. But it's something that if you get a chance, you can watch parts of it at your leisure. And I could also arrange to get you just copies of the slides that they presented. So I'll take care of that. The real reason I'm here, though, is to make the pitch that I look at this as a good economic development tool, particularly for Philadelphia Avenue and the NPP district. Again, drawing on the experience that they had in Massachusetts, you know, they had the cannabis shop next to just right in the middle of the retail areas, and they really didn't have any problems. In fact, you get a somewhat of a spin-off effect. If people are in town for that, they may stop and get a cup of coffee on their way in, or on their way out of town, stop at one of the other shops in the area. So I look at that. I'm also looking at now, 2 vacant bank buildings on Philadelphia Avenue that would probably make an ideal location, particularly with the security elements that they already have built into them. And I know with the state, the security of the site is a big issue. So that I think that if the city does opt in or chooses to stay with the program, since it is a conditional use, I would definitely like to see more of it allowed on Philadelphia Avenue than possibly on the White Horse Pike, just for those reasons alone. Thank you.
So I guess the appropriate thing is to find out, just with this board, what do you think? Opt in or opt out? I mean, I know council makes the ultimate decision, but I would be curious to know what the feelings are of this board.
I think the city can't do, they have to do it. I mean, we're in a financial bind, selling the water plant. Why not? 5 years, we've made more mistakes. 5 years is too much money to pass up. The town needs it. It's a good income. It's going to be regulated heavily. I'm all for it. I think they should opt in and do it all.
I'm for it also.
Same here. Well, and not to compare ourselves to California or Colorado, but if you read anything about the businesses that are in these states and the tremendous amount of money that is being made off of this, and not just by the companies that are in the cannabis business, but by the municipalities and the states and the people that can collect the tax revenue off of it. It's a cash machine. Now, there's still the old school thinking, but the world has changed, and it's obvious because it was voted in. So I'm in agreement with the others that, we would be foolish to opt out of any of it, but I think that we know so little about it that we don't want to misstep or miss something that we could plan for ahead of time. And it's not like there's a New Jersey municipality somewhere else that we could model an ordinance or something like that after. You might have to go to another state, and I don't know how that would, if it would be apples to apples comparison to our situation, but I think it's worthy of our professionals to look a little bit deeper in it and see if there's any guidance that they can offer.
Well, I'm not really for the whole thing. I wouldn't mind the growers and stuff like that, but I don't think the retail should be done in Egg Harbor City. I just don't think it. I guess I'm old school. I guess I don't know, but I don't approve of selling it. I mean, if they're going to grow it, it's going to be restrictions. We're going to make some money off of it. I think that'd be good for the town. But Egg Harbor's got a reputation already for having the Red Barn and all these other places, you know? So now you can go buy your dope and then you can swing by the Red Barn.
And don't forget the liquor store, Todd.
What's that?
Don't forget the liquor stores.
The liquor stores, yeah. I mean, you know, I just don't approve of it, so.
Well, Todd,
I know.
to your point, you know, you took the extreme here with, you know, cannabis and adult bookstores, but the other side of that is there's other businesses that could spin off as a result of the cannabis sale in town. Now, I don't know if that would be good or bad, but you know, restaurants and that kind of thing could benefit from a thing like that. I just, with all the unknowns about it, we don't know what to expect. But that, you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Something to consider is that the one thing you cannot prevent is the marijuana, the weed, the cannabis, however you're going to call it, and however you feel about it, you can't prevent it from being in your town. That's one part of the legislation. It allows for transport. You can't stop transport. If someone wants to deliver directly to people's homes, you can't prevent that. Imagine a DoorDash for marijuana that comes from a town that has permitted retail and distribution in that town, from that town. People will deliver directly to your town. And so whatever your concerns are about marijuana, it will still be there. But the one thing you will not have is revenue. And that's what this, at the end of the day, we have to consider it as a source of revenue. And it was brought up Massachusetts. Massachusetts has recently put out several articles, done interviews at the state level, talking about that this has generated revenue with a B. With a B, not in terms of millions, but with a B. We're talking about billions. And it's projected that that's the type of revenue that the state of New Jersey is going to have generated with a B. So considering the fact that we feel a financial crunch where we're like today, we have to sell assets, right? Tomorrow we may be acquiring assets. So it's one of those things, totally different world. You know, you can turn it off and turn the faucet off, but someone's going to turn it on. And I'm looking at it, hey, we can try it, see if it works. Remember, you have 5 years. If you find that it's unpalatable and you don't want to continue with it, like, you don't, just let your taxes go, let everything go. It's just unpalatable. I don't want it. After 5 years, you can make that decision. You can say, well, you know what, we all agree. Another thing to consider is that individually we can make decisions, but also consider that this was part of a referendum and that this was voted on by everyone in the state, by people who voted in this very town. And by a vast majority, people voted for this. So if we feel individually like this isn't for me, the vast majority of the people in your town that voted may have already responded that it's for them. And so we should always be mindful of that and be willing to listen to that vote. That's it.
So
Well
so what
said.
you're saying is somebody could come in, you could allow a grower to come in. He's going to build a facility. He's going to put a couple $1 million into his facility. And in 5 years, if we don't like it, we're just going to tell him, didn't work out, guys, and you can't grow anymore.
No, that's not the way the legislation works. So once you're opted in, you're in for the 5 years. And then when you decide to cut it off, right, you can cut it off. However, the people that were existing, they're grandfathered in. So if you allow it, if you open it up and say there's a retailer comes in, you're not really palatable, but you say, what you're really saying is you don't want any more. You know, I'm not really for this. I don't want any more. But remember, every year that guy's going to be there, he's going to have to pay you that renewal fee to Mercantile. So if you That's your option. Your option is to create a local licensing structure that mirrors the states. Consider that Trenton did that when they were doing the just at the medical marijuana level. Their fees are, I think, $10,000 for just someone who wants to come in and manufacture or do wholesale or distributor. Retail is like maybe 5,000, but they have to pay that as a mercantile license every year. So there is revenue in this. And
Once you make the commitment, you're in though,
once,
because you can't get rid of them.
well, you're talking about someone who, if it's your industrial park, they're growing. The other parts of it, they're there regardless. You know, regardless what you do, you're not going to stop. Like if your concern is, and seriously, this is a real concern because.
Well, I'm just asking questions, Carl, because I had no idea. The way it was explained, it wasn't explained that, it was explained that after 5 years, it could, you know, it seemed to me like you guys were saying it could go away because you just change your mind. And then I'm thinking to myself, somebody's going to come in and put a couple $1 million, probably more than that, into a facility. And how do you get rid of them then? And now you answered my question. They don't go away. So it doesn't go away. It just, you stop it from advancing is what should be said.
If you're saying, well, you know, I don't like it. Now remember, you do have your time, place, manner restrictions. You have your ability to put a cap on how many of these license holders that you permit in your town. Okay.
Right. Oh, no, I get it. I understand
you
that.
can always regulate that.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I just was unclear about it. What you're saying is in 5 years, if you decide this isn't good for Egg Harbor City, you still have the facilities that have grown in those 5 years. The businesses stay until they want to leave. So you're really, it's a serious commitment here that you have to think about, you know, and I'm not against the whole thing, you know, but I'm not going to jump in the pool either, you know. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, asking questions. And now I know that it doesn't go away. You know, we say, well, in 5 years and you can change your mind. Well, you can change your mind all you want, but they're still here. So know what you're getting into. What's that?
It's kind of like Wawa, you know, like
I never
I
thought
really
of it
would
like
prefer a
that.
7-Eleven, you know, at some point it's the market that kind of comes in and controls. So even if you wanted a 7-Eleven, Wawa killed them, you know, so, you know, you need someone to come in who's trying to kill a Wawa. And by that, what I'm saying is you can look at it and say, well, I don't want it, but it's going to be somewhere. It's going to be next door. It's going to be maybe Atlantic City. It's going to be somewhere and someone's going to benefit from it. Someone's going to receive the revenue. Think of it in terms of like it's a pie. Regardless what you do, it's still a pie. You can take a slice, you can take a small slice, you can take a large slice, but it's still a pie. You know, you don't have to take a slice, but it's still a pie of revenue. And at the end of the day,
Right. No,
you're
I
going
get
to
it.
know you didn't.
Yeah, I get it.
Can I say something here?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the bad element that we are perhaps concerned with, based on what I've seen over the years, and I've lived here over 30 years, we already have here in Egg Harbor. It's not going to get any worse. The bad element that we have that we may be concerned with bringing this in is already operating illegally. Here you would have it, whatever other traffic it would bring in is legal. And we get, as Carl was saying, and we get a benefit from it. The only thing I would be concerned about was a little bit of what Phil had said was regard to where we would have it. I think and I'm not for or against whether it's on this, you know, in the middle of town, you know, in town or on the Whitehorse Pike. I'm just thinking that I don't know if we want to even limit where, only because some places may feel that they have better exposure on the Whitehorse Pike. And so if we say, all right, yeah, let's do it in, you know, let it be in town and not on the pike or vice versa. leave that up to the merchant themselves. But as far as the concern, and Todd, I hear what you're saying. I'm a you know, I'm a man of the cloth. I'm a minister, and I understand the world has changed and all that comes with it. But knowing people like I do, I really firmly believe that the bad element that we are concerned with, again, I'm telling you, trust me, it's here, has been here. We would, I can tell you, I believe we would attract we attract a worse element with the porno shops that are in town, and you might even say the liquor store than we will with what we're talking about doing now. It's not going to. My thing is, I'm telling you, trust me, I don't believe it's going to get any worse. If anything, this is regulated. It's got, some rules around it, and there's revenue, big time revenue that's involved. And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Andrew.
This is John Garth, and I'm gonna have to say I agree with Todd. I'm for pretty much most aspects of this. I'm not for the retail side, and I keep hearing revenue. Well, for decisions purely just about the money, I think we're already making a mistake if the money's the only decision maker. We got all these studies and we're hearing all the positive things, but I'd like to hear some of the negative aspects that people encounter, because it can't all be rainbow and sunshines here. What are the unintended consequences of having retail stores versus just having the manufacturing, the growing, and the other things? The revenue's there, it's there. If 5 years from now, we evaluate it and there's some examples going on and there's some models to use, we can always add retail. But once if we adopt retail from the beginning, we can't ever get rid of retail.
That's right.
So I say we err on the side of caution.
So if we opt in, and I'm just throwing stuff against the wall here, if we opted in, could we, as a town, say we are opting in for retail, but for the initial 5 years, we have X number of retail establishments that we would allow, and then in 5 years, you live with what you got or you increase it, and I don't know what that number is. I'm sure that we could come up with something that would be equitable, but at least you're getting your feet wet. And listen, it's like grants and everything that are out there. There's millions of dollars out there that municipalities can take advantage of. And if we don't take advantage of them, that money's not going to get put back in the pot. It's going to go to somebody else. So, John, I hear what you're saying about the retail thing, but I don't see how we can not do something. To Andrew's point, it's out there now, unregulated. At least we would have a chance to regulate it and generate some revenue. Whether the moral aspects of it you agree or disagree with, it's law now. So whether you agree with it or not, it's not like they're going to lock you up because you disagree with it. It's going to be the law, and the people are going to use it. And not just the sale of the cannabis to intoxicate yourself or whatever the many reasons that people use it for. There's a whole nother industry blossoming here regarding this, as far as using it for cooking and adding it to food and making food out of it, and restaurants and all that kind of stuff that are going. This stuff is happening right now in these other states that are have already had it legalized and have been in operation for a while. So there's the realm of possibility is unlimited as far as to where this could go. But I understand us not wanting to let the horse out of the gate uncontrolled. Maybe we could put some restrictions on it. And anyone else from the board wish to weigh in on that?
I'd like to comment back to that, Jack. I get what you're saying, that the state has given us the ability. Yes, it's legalized to an extent. However, the state has given each town the ability to pick and choose which aspects of these we want to allow in our town. Now, if someone is going to take the time to buy it online, and they're going to have an organization come and deliver to their door, and it's everything's discreet and it's at their house, and they do what they do at their home, what they do in their home is what they do in their home. I don't really care. Like I said, I feel that the state has given us the ability to pick and choose what we want. And all I keep hearing is the revenue aspect of it. And I think we're prostituting ourselves out if it's about the money.
I agree with John. If you take it slow, I think, John, you're on the same page that go with the manufacturers and in 5 years have like a 3-step plan or something where you can go over it. And then if you want to take on a couple retailers, take on a retailer or two instead of jumping in and saying, well, I want 3 retailers or I want 6 retailers. You're always going to have people that are going to want to sell it. You're always going to want to have that goes without question. You're going to be able to get those guys at any time. But you get the manufacturers that'll come in here and build a nice building and do a nice job for the city. You're getting your money. And then in 5 years, you can always get a retailer or 2 or 3 or, whatever it takes. But once you get it, once you say, look, we'll say 3 or 4 now, and then you got them forever. So if this turns out to be a bad idea, and I'm not saying it is a bad idea. My personal opinion is I don't like the retail aspects of it. I just have my own feelings about it. But there's always time to jump in. You don't have to jump into the pool. You could stick your foot in and see how hot the water is or how cold the water is, and do it the safe way, and build something in the city instead of just jumping in. And then in 5 years, we're all sitting here saying, yeah, well, it worked out, but not exactly like we wanted to, is what I'm saying. And I think John's on the same page. You can always get a buyer. You'll always have a retail guy,
So on the professionals that are on the board, what are you hearing about our surrounding municipalities? We're not the only ones that are talking about this. Does anybody have any idea what Mullica or Galloway or Egg Harbor Township or Hamilton has discussions that they're talking?
No, I haven't heard anything, Jack, but I do know that there's a lot of land available. We just had this discussion at the land use board. There's a lot of land available in other municipalities that people are going to take advantage of. And I believe it was Egg Harbor Township that has a similar program where they can defer the taxes, with the tax abatement. So, there's a lot of competition for land. I mean, I don't think it's as easy as we may think to get a retailer to come into Egg Harbor City. That's why we've always had to have the tax abatements and things like that to make it more attractive for people. But right now, with our tax abatement and building new properties, especially in the industrial park, that's a big incentive for people to come here. But I haven't heard anything else but that we have very limited space and other communities have unlimited space, basically. So we have to take advantage of what we can take advantage of now. That's my feeling.
Well, Hamilton and Pleasantville both have, walkable downtown business districts, unlike, Mays Landing does too, but not to the extent. I'm wondering what they're thinking.
I don't know. I think everybody's confused. And I know I had the opportunity to talk to a few legislators this weekend, and they're just as confused as we are. There's no, this is a whole new area that we're getting into. Nobody really knows what the answers are, what to expect. So I don't know.
I was in Florida a couple years ago, and they were basically selling it in a mall in a kiosk where, it was just a glass cabinet in another store, and they had a guy standing there. I mean, this is what the future is going to be. I mean, you're going to be selling this stuff at Wawa.
It's not recreationally legal in Florida.
That's not permissible.
It wasn't recreation. You're right. It wasn't recreation. It was medical.
Okay.
But it's
But it
not
was
permissible
being
to sell
sold,
in places
but
where they sell food. Like a deli, or I think Wawa would be would count underneath that. So I don't think.
Okay, well, okay. But I'm just telling you what I saw in Florida. It was medical marijuana, and it was sold in a glass cabinet inside a store.
That may have been CBD oil, something like that.
No, it was marijuana. It was sold inside a strip mall, inside another store that sold other things besides marijuana. And they sold it in a glass cabinet. It was medical. They had a guy there that just, but that was his job, that cabinet. That was his job. And
Well, they
he-
would have had to have a medical certificate, and that goes, I
Right.
Yes,
don't think recreation
Yes.
was legal in Florida.
yes.
Jersey, it's regulated a little more.
What is the date that we have to adopt this by? What's the state saying we have to do
August
this by?
21st. The ordinance has to be adopted on the books by August 21st.
And Angela, so August 21st, we do nothing, then we essentially opt in. So at that
Exactly.
point, retail, for example, would be permitted in any commercial zone. At that point, after August 21st, do we lose the ability to say, well, we only want it on the Black Horse Pike and we want these conditions? Do we lose that ability on August?
The
Or don't you know?
conditions, we don't lose the conditions.
Okay,
We can adopt an ordinance just regulating time, number, those kinds of things, but you can't
prohibit it in
redo
those.
your zoning at
Gotcha,
that point in time.
gotcha.
That's why I go back to the fact that these opt-out provisions are really zoning
Gotcha.
provisions. So you can regulate the time, the number, the location, but that's all you can do.
Gotcha.
If you want to have the farm, I call them farms, and the other businesses, keep out retailers, you have to specifically enact an ordinance keeping out retailers by August 21st.
So this isn't really a land use board decision other than the zoning aspect of it. It's really going to be up to council to make the final decision. Is that correct?
That's true, but the council would like a recommendation from the land use board as to what your thoughts are and how the zoning would affect, if it does affect, the different levels of licenses within the city.
And I think this is, bringing it to this board is a way of getting in front of the issue, because we're doing our master plan now.
April, what?
Decide what we want to do, and we can do it. And that's why I think it came to this board for your recommendation. Just, we heard several different opinions, Philadelphia Avenue, the White Horse Pike, the industrial park. But this is our opportunity as we enter into these unknown realms to think about what we want. We don't want, I mean, personally, I don't think we should have 5 different stores on Philadelphia Avenue. You know, I don't think we should have every corner of the White Horse Pike as a store. You know, we can, you know, right now we have the power in our hands to control this in some fashion or another. It's not, I don't think it's a question of whether, like Carl had said, that we cannot have it at all because it's the people's wish to do this and they voted on it. However, you know, we can control it to an extent through this board, really. And, you know, council's not gonna, if you recommend to council that you want 1 store on Philadelphia Avenue, maybe 2 at the most on the White Horse Pike, industrial park is fine for groweries, you know, then you have a little bit of power and control. Even if, like Todd had said, 5 years from now, we decide we don't like it, then we only have a handful of places that we actually, you know, agree to and put in our master plan to do. So, you know, it's an opportunity really to take control of the situation. I mean, I could be misspeaking, and Angela, if I am, or whoever, let me know, but that's the way I look at it.
So Jack, I think we can go forth on several levels. You can ask the board and you can take a vote if you like on whether they want to opt in. By opting in, I mean you take all 4 categories, but by opting in, you can also regulate times, locations, manner, and number with an ordinance.
Well,
Permitted to do that. Or,
opinion, and this is just my opinion, I would opt in and I would say, let's put a limit on retail establishments. Let's pick a number, let's say 4. Let's say we'll license 4, if that's within the state regulations, that, you could have 4 retail establishments wherever it would be legal to have a business like that within the city, kind of like a liquor store. And if in 5 years, if it turns out that, it's viable and lucrative and not as much trouble as we thought it would be, then you can go more, or you'd have to live with the 4 that you have.
yep, that's the way, one of the ways you could do it. And with respect to the members there that want to opt out, at least out of retailing, you could also do that. You can opt in for everything else except retail. You could take a vote on that if you like. Or we could go that route. But that's simply a board recommendation. After your board gives council a recommendation, then council will vote on to accept the recommendation, to do their own, or maybe something in the middle. I don't know.
And I mean, we don't have to take a vote tonight. I wouldn't think. It's only April. So if the board wanted to consider it for a month, or we wanted to develop what our proposed regulations would be, or number of facilities or whatever, I think we could take the time to do that rather than try to figure it out on the fly and make a recommendation within one night. I think that's fair.
Absolutely. You have some time, but you don't have a lot of time. So if your next meeting in May, you want to consider it and make a recommendation, that would be great. That would give council some time also to think about it and get something together by way of ordinance.
And we can also watch Phil's video too. That would be very helpful in making a decision. And possibly do some research on the things that Todd had said. Maybe, are there other consequences? Is the crime rate higher? Is, whatever. And maybe do some personal research on that and then make a educated decision on what we should do.
So Phil, would the video that you spoke of, is that something that you could share with Donna that she could distribute to the board members?
I've already sent the link to Donna. I actually copied you and the mayor and Angela on that also. The other thing I will send to Donna is, again, I have the slides that the individual presenters, at least 3 of them, have. I'll send those as a separate PDF file. And also there was an article in the National Planning Magazine just last month discussing coast to coast, and it has some of the good points and some of the bad points to Todd and John Garth's point, as far as, what are some of the bad things? So it gives you examples from some of those locations. Unfortunately, most of the discussion going on in the article deals with larger communities and larger urban areas, not so much small town, but at least gives you a flavor that, not everything is coming up roses. There are issues out there. Yes, there definitely are. But I'll make sure that I get that to Donna tomorrow also, so that she can distribute to all board members.
Okay, so I know that this is a big issue and an awful lot of information to absorb, and information that we don't even know about yet for us to make any kind of a decision. But if I'm taking the temperature of the board right, most everybody is okay with, the growers and the other, except for the retail. We have a couple members that are opposed to the retail. Somewhere in between there's got to be some compromise, I'm sure. But I think that we should digest any information that we have over the next month, and at our next meeting, let's have another discussion and make a recommendation to council once we've agreed amongst ourselves what that should be. And in the meantime, maybe Ryan could do a little research as far as from the zoning and planning side, and how it would integrate with the master plan, if that's all going to happen at the same time, and there'd be further information for discussion.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jack.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Sounds good.
That works. And
Go ahead.
Mayor, I guess now is a good time as ever. Earlier in the meeting, we adopted Resolution 1, which is basically the consistency report confirming our findings at the special meeting we had about 2 weeks ago. And it just determined that the ordinance for the group homes that was introduced is not inconsistent with our master plan. It is consistent with Ryan's memorandum, which is going to be likely become part of our reexamination report. I just asked the 5 members who were present at the special meeting to vote on that, and it got approved, 4 in favor, and then we marked you as absent. Do you want us to mark you as a yes vote on that?
Yeah, and you know what, since you brought that up, can I take just a minute or so to explain what transpired within the last couple weeks with that group home too? Another issue. You're not going to believe this, but I had a resident text me of a sex offender, a tier 3 sex offender who was living in the group home. Okay. I contacted the state. They told me that they don't regulate who goes into the group homes. That's the police department's problem or whatever. They have to notify people. None of the residents were notified that there was a tier 3 sex offender living in the group home less than 20 feet away from a school. Okay. So I don't know how this stuff is happening, but it just seems like we're helpless in this situation. So since then, the sex offender has moved. He's moved to Galloway Township somewhere. He is out of Egg Harbor City, but I ask, how is this happening? How is this happening? How does a sex offender come into a group home for recovering whatever they are and nobody knows about it? And the state, who supposedly has control over everything, doesn't know about it and doesn't care about it.
It's up to the offender to notify local law enforcement and whoever that he's moving into town. We have no idea knowing who it is, and I'm not justifying it, but it's that person is to be held responsible. If they're moving into somewhere, they're supposed to notify their whereabouts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is a little more controlled situation as to whether someone's moving next door to you or not. But in a house that they bought, I mean, this is a legitimate group home that someone should be, looking at who these people are that are moving in. That's my opinion. But just so you know, I'm not saying that the board needs to talk about it. I'm just letting you know that this is what's going on and it can happen again. And you could be living next to the next group home because there's another one coming too.
So we just got an application for another. So.
So I'm just putting it out there.
Where's the application for the other one?
What is it, Ryan? Liverpool or London or something? I forget.
53 London.
London.
Because Meg sent out the address. She sent out Bob Body's address, and we determined.
Right. You're right. It's London Avenue. It's the corner house. It's red. I went by it.
355.
I went by it the other day.
Yeah.
And there again, I mean, okay, there's a church right across the street, which might be a good thing, but there's kids that live next door.
Well, so to be clear, I mean that would not be prohibited under the proposed ordinance. I believe that lot is farther than 1,000 feet from a school, and since it's only the second one they're aware of that would be in the city, it would be obviously more than 600 feet from the other one, which is over by the
Same owner that owns this one as the other one?
I don't know.
No. I remember I looked up the owner was to a business park in Turnersville or somewhere.
And
Look at
every
the
time
Turnersville.
we see a house being dropped in on a lot or someone buying a house, we have to live in fear that this is going to happen. Like when they sold the business across the street from my house to that electric company, Nor'easter, I was seriously concerned whether it was going to be a group home. The one on Buffalo Avenue, Bobby Winkler's old house. I thought, we're all living in fear. Is it going to be a group home? I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy with the stuff that goes on. I mean, Keith, you could have had the same situation. You got a corner house right there. The
Yep.
guy plopped right on the lot. He could have put a
Give it-
group home there. What would
Give
you
him
have done?
time.
What would you have done? You
Can't
wouldn't
say
have-
you're recording this.
I always try, I always try to make decisions based on how I would feel if it happened to me. That's all. No matter what it is.
But
So,
we're getting tax revenue from it.
Just a
There you
single
go.
family home.
That's the point I'm trying to make with this, that if the tax revenue is what we care about, not what we think is morally and ethically good for our community, that's my issue.
Are we getting taxes from the state-run facilities?
Just as a single family home.
The point is we're getting tax revenue from the single family home that's paying on time, because obviously they don't want to be evicted and have it share sale, but it was my smart ass way of saying that just because we're getting revenue from something doesn't mean it's a good thing.
I'm aware of certain operators that have filed, I don't know if they've been successful, so they're pending, but they filed tax appeals seeking tax exemption status. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
they're a nonprofit. Apparently, if you have a LLC attached to you, you're not a nonprofit, because there's a church that is under foreclosure right now that has an LLC attached to it. And I thought churches were exempt, but apparently they're not.
Okay, Mayor, thank you for that. Is there any, no, I lost my agenda. Is there any old business? Anyone from the public wish to comment? Any further discussion or comments from the board? And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Is
Motion.
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And we will reconvene at next month's meeting with a little more information regarding the cannabis use. So thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much.
Thanks,
All
Andrew.
right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.